Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Reacts. And today we are talking about something that is near and dear to my heart. We're talking
Yep.
about Obsidian Cliff, the humanities toolshed for the last 11,500 years.
Yeah. Well, I thought we were talking about Yellowstone. I brought my cowboy hats and everything.
Yeah, Yellowstone. No, what we're actually talking about is the obsidian deposits based out of Yellowstone, which
Yeah.
the article is centered around the obsidian cliffsides in Yellowstone because they were a pivotal source of obsidian for the indigenous folks of North America.
Yep, that's right. Yellowstone is in fact a real place and not just a cowboy TV show.
It's also a volcano, which is why there's obsidian, because
Idiot
there were
everywhere.
lava flows.
Yeah. Yep. Hmm.
But
Yes. Yes. Obsidian, the sharpest natural substance in the world. So naturally, for nearly 12,000 years, we've been making it into stabby things to stab things with, mostly
well,
each other.
not just stabby things. Obsidian has this very unique, let's say, ability that when it is sharpened and flaked into these tools, it actually becomes one of the sharpest materials in the world, sharper
That's
than
what I
even
just
that
said.
of surgical scalpels.
I just said it was the sharpest natural substance on Earth. Like, but did you know it was sharp? Like,
Yes,
are we?
you said natural, but people will go, well, we make razor blades. No, it's even sharper
Yeah,
than that.
yeah.
It is like
That
the
is
sharpest thing.
that is. I suppose that is true. Yeah.
Like that's what I'm trying to highlight because my smart ass is like, oh yeah, razor blades, surgical scalp. No, they use obsidian for cataract surgery, which is a horrifying fact that
Uh,
Cullum found out before we
no,
started.
no, 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 no. Not that they use obsidian for cataract surgery. Because that the modern cataract surgery using lasers and obsidian.
Oh yeah,
That's
well,
normal. No, prior to any of that, they the I want to say the indigenous people would grind up obsidian and quartz and douse it in your eye like it's an eye droplet
oh,
to cure cataracts. So basically, letting a razor blade run around the inside of your eyelid for a minute
nothing bad can happen from that. Nothing.
until you hopefully cry it out and are either still blind or are cured.
You know, at that point, that's kind of a fair risk assessment, though. It's like you either stay blind or you're no longer blind.
Yeah. Either way, there's about 15 minutes of absolute agony because
As you
it
have
hurts
glass
like hell when
shards.
you get an eyelash in there. How about a knife?
Literal glass shards, like razor sharp glass
Oh yeah,
shards.
yeah, it's the glass shards. Quartz is glass. Obsidian is volcanic glass, and it is a million times worse.
But, anyways, talking about the sharpness of obsidian, one of the things that this article really highlights is what they've been doing. And what researchers have started doing is they're using a scientific research technique called X ray fluorescence, which basically takes X rays and shoots it into the object to a point where it starts fluorescing, it starts glowing. And that's how they can actually tell the chemical composition. Well, every single obsidian deposit on this planet has a unique chemical composition, meaning you can trace obsidian artifacts to their home source, which is
Yeah, yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, and that is due largely to the fact that obsidian is volcanic glass. It comes from eruptions, which means that you trace it to the exact chemical composition uh, of the specific volcano that it erupted from, the specific time in which that volcano erupted to form that specific shard of obsidian, because every eruption is slightly different from every single volcano. So you know exactly when it was formed and by who.
And
Uh,
the thing that I find really fascinating and something that's near and dear to my heart is the scientists who are studying this are tracing how these populations moved and traded along the landscapes and along the continent by looking at where their obsidian sources are. And we're starting to find out that there were vast trade networks across the continent that went North America, South America, back and forth.
yeah. Yeah, I know. It's it's one of the things. Like, I figured they were fairly large ones because I mean, you have what was already known prior to this is you have a lot of trade goods from southern Mexico making their way up the Mississippi into what is now like Wisconsin. So it's like it's already there's we already know there is a continent wide trade network, but the fact that it doesn't just follow the path of least resistance is what this Obsidian shows us, which means that it's an actual network and not just a trade circuit. It actually spreads everywhere.
And the thing that I really like about this article specifically is they highlight the science behind it a lot because archaeochemistry is probably one of the most intimidating fields within archaeology because you start throwing in chemical compositions, you start throwing in those like fancy chemical equations and you lose like 90% of the people.
Yeah, you need someone. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you need someone who's not just good at mathematics and history like you would for a lot of the sociological statistical things. You need someone who's very good at chemistry, which is math plus hard science, which is itself its own little spear of just specialization.
Which is why what they did here is so fascinating because they used a portable X-ray fluorescence machine, which comes to about the size of a drill, and you can do it by hand. And they are so fine-tuned that you no longer need to know how to use like a mass spectrometry machine. You literally point it at it and basically hold this trigger, and it scans the material on your behalf so you can use it in the field. Like, it is the
Yeah,
coolest thing. I've gotten the chance to use it a couple of times, and it is honestly phenomenal. We used it to identify chemical composition of glass.
yeah, yeah. It's I've seen one of those old mass spectrometry machines. I saw one of them in person. Uh, you you're more likely to take an axe to it than to actually operate it successfully. The old ones are nightmares. So having one where you can just literally basically have just a power tool in your hand and just use it is leaps and bounds ahead of where we were and actually just making chemistry accessible. Because let's be honest, chemistry is not very accessible to most people. It's a very specialized field in its own right.
Yeah, so this kind of technology and the fact that they're actually getting practical results out of it's a very cool thing. And this article goes on for ages about it and talks about so many different options and things that are going on. I mean, they basically it's
It,
highly worth the read. It's a New
yeah.
York Times article, but I
Mm-hmm.
think we summarized it pretty well as well.
Yeah. It's yeah, it has just dozens and dozens of specific case in point studies going on, just to prove that it is a global phenomenon and that it is found everywhere. I believe there are examples pulled from Mexico and Iran, so opposite sides of the globe,
Yeah.
just to drive home that that the use of obsidian is a pretty universal human tool.
I think my favorite personal anecdote that I've come across was reading a report from an archaeology site in Oklahoma where they found this very specific green obsidian that only comes from a volcano just outside of Mexico City.
Oh yes, the jade obsidian. Oh, that's that that stuff confuses. I was like, I want it to be jade, but it's
Yeah, but imagine a poor American archaeologist doing an excavation coming across that and going, whoa.
yeah. Well, that's not necessarily poor because that's probably the best thing he's seen in like 7 days.
Oh, for sure, especially if he was doing shovel testing. But on
Yeah,
that note, I think that's a great point for us to wrap up this episode. I mean, we got to talk about the obsidian, we got to talk about landscape archaeology in a cool, fun, engaging manner.
yeah. Let's just leave. Is there anything else you want to tell the good folk about, Justin?
If you guys haven't heard already, be sure to check out the Humanitarian Collections link down below. It's our personal web shop that we're using to help support the Trevor Project. So help us support the Trevor Project and check out the link in the description. And thank you guys for watching.